Bitcoiners, pre-coiners, no-coiners, new coiners, Swan Force members, welcome to Swan Lounge, a weekly show in which you get to hang out with the Swan Team and some of our friends from the incredibly exciting world of Bitcoin. And today, maybe some passersby from the Hard Rock Hotel Business Center. You never know. I'm actually doing this show from Cancun right now. I'm on vacation with my brother, and then I'm going to Bitcoin Beach in a few days. So maybe I think next week we'll do a show from Bitcoin Beach if the internet allows. But before today's show, before we dive in, as always, a little bit of housekeeping. We are giving away Jan Pritzker's book, Inventing Bitcoin, for free in an effort to spread Bitcoin knowledge. You can go to swanbitcoin.com/free book to claim your copy. We have it in 3 different ebook formats and MP3, read by our friend Guy Swan over at Bitcoin Audible. All we ask is that you pay it forward. Share the link with as many people as you can. We ask you to share it with 3 people, but come on, folks. You know more than 3 people, so share the book with everybody. Be that annoying Bitcoin person until we hit hyper-Bitcoinization. You can help us. We're almost there. Let's do it. All right, we also have the book in Spanish. Oh, wait, let's try this one more time. Let's try this. I always screw it up. We also have the book in Spanish. Y puedes descargar su copia en www.swanbitcoin.com/libro gratis. I got it that time. Okay, even more exciting here on Gigi's incredible book, 21 Lessons. If you haven't read it yet, it is a must-read. Go to swanbitcoin.com/21lessons. Sorry, the intro got interrupted by American HODL, who was popping back into the stream, but I wanted to make sure he's here when we get going. So swanbitcoin.com/21lessons. Get your copy. And we are also giving away another book. So many books, I know. You know Tomer Strolide. He was on our show before. He's doing some amazing writing for Swan and for Bitcoin in general. Go to swanbitcoin.com/whybitcoin, and you can get his amazing book series as well. All right, Swan Force. Come on, folks. You know what Swan Force is. It's our incredible referral program. Get paid to do what you're already doing. Get paid to recruit Bitcoiners. If you're signing up your friends and family, it's a no-brainer. Go to swanbitcoin.com/enlist. Get your own amazing custom page with your picture and a quote and share it with your friends and family. When they sign up with your link, they'll get $10 of free Bitcoin, and you will get 25% of 25% of the fees that we get whenever they make a buy. I'd also like to welcome anyone who's new to Swan Bitcoin and new to the show. If you don't know Swan Bitcoin, we're pretty awesome. We're Swan Bitcoin, all right? We make it really easy to buy Bitcoin automatically with instant buys and wires up to $10 million. We've got the lowest fees in the industry for our services, up to 80% lower than Coinbase and 50% lower than Cash App. And we have incredibly fast onboarding. Go from 0 to Bitcoin in as little as 5 minutes. You can also pay yourself in Bitcoin. I'm gonna ramble on this for a second, folks. Why? Because it's important, okay? I pay myself in Bitcoin. Pretty much everybody who works at Swan does so. We take a little bit of our paycheck and we do an automatic buy. I buy Bitcoin every single day. People ask me, oh, how often do you buy? Every day. That's how often I buy Bitcoin. Sometimes more than once a day, sometimes twice a day. But you can set it and forget it. It's easy, it's great. And the thing about dollar cost averaging or automated DCA is that when you set it and forget it, over time, your stack just grows and grows and grows, and you literally don't have to think about it. And I go in and I'll look and I'll see how much Bitcoin I've accumulated, and it surprises me every time. So anyway, get paid in, you get your dirty fiat, you convert it to Bitcoin automatically, everyone's happy. Set it up, folks. All right. Almost done. Last thing, you know what I'm going to say. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. Why? Not because I said so, but because you like us. You like our show and you like Bitcoin, and you want to help us grow the show, grow our audience, which in turn helps us spread the good word about Bitcoin. All right, fine. We're done. Moving on to our guests. We've got a great show today, folks. We've got Sean Culkin, an NFL tight end currently playing for Team Bitcoin. He's a Mizzou alum, and he's working on his MBA. We've got BTC Sessions. You know BTC Sessions, guys. He is a Bitcoin educator, one of the best out there in the space. We've got the American HODL. Beware of imitators. Okay, this is the American HODL. I want to find out why he's all in caps, and we'll get into that in a bit. We've got Armani Cotton, who hooped at Yale and plays pro basketball in Europe. Sorry, Armani, you sent me a long bio here, buddy. Let me see this. He runs a company. You know what? I'm going to let you introduce yourself. We're going to do that. And, of course, we've got Camila Campton, our social media manager, and me, your annoying host, Brekkie von Bitcoin. All right, I've been talking way too much, rambling way too much. It's time to bring in the guests. In 3, sorry, I'm working on this tiny little laptop. I can't find out where anything is. There we go. Give me 1 second, folks. You're muted. Unmuted. 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 American HODL was unmuted the whole time. All right, folks. Welcome to Swan Lounge. How are you doing today?
American HODL, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, you could have done some crazy stuff. That would have been fun.
That's my bad on that long bio, man.
No. I was every time I do the intro, I have like a sort of a speed that I start out at, and it tends to pick up speed, and I got to work on that. By the time I hit your bio, I was going so fast that I quit. It was like lightning network. It wasn't working. It was very reckless, like HODL's hat there. HODL, question. That's a reckless hat, right? Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Are you a Lightning fan? I don't see you tweeting about it too often, but I hope you are. Let's open a channel, my friend. What are you doing?
I got my Get Umbral node going. I'm not a routing node though, so
not yet.
I'm not a hardcore Lightning guy, but I'm bullish on Lightning.
Okay, all right. We'll change that. I literally started running my node like 2 months ago, and now I'm addicted, and it's a lot of fun. So,
it's very addicting. You start playing your own channels, and was the Plebnet, aka KYC Jelly, all those guys, all opening up channels to each other. Yeah, it's super awesome.
It's once you start wrapping your head around how it works, and it's a lot of fun. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go around. Let's do some intros. Armani, you sent me that beast of a paragraph. Who are you, man? This is your debut on Swan Lounge. So tell the world who you are, and then we'll go to Sean because he's new to the show as well.
Yeah, no, this is a first for me. I'm hyped to be here. I'm also seeing some familiar names, not faces. I realize that this is a faceless game we're living in, but American HODL, I've heard of you. I've heard you. So that's it. And the guy right above you right now, he actually helped me with my Raspberry on YouTube.
Hey.
Assembling that. So that's cool.
Awesome.
To go from the umbrella on that. So yeah, that's funny. I definitely hit a couple of your links. And then Sean, I've heard you through the grapevine. So no, it's cool. You summarized it. You know, I did hoop at Yale. I've been playing pro overseas, but I guess first and foremost in this context, I'm a big heavy at that. 2017 was my class. I learned about it in Miami when my cousin was returning from the Navy and kept on pulling out this little USB stick. I was very confused what the hell he was doing with it because he's not much of a tech guy. And then from there, that just began the conversation. So yeah, hyped to be here.
Love it. Sean, tell us about yourself. We got to hang out at Bitcoin 2021 for like 5 minutes. I was disappointed. It was so short, but
it was quick. Yeah, it was definitely quick. I was bouncing around all over the place. It was a lot of fun though in Miami. But yeah, I'm Sean. I'm going in my 5th year in the NFL. I kind of made some news a little bit ago because I was the first to want to have 100% of my salary converted into Bitcoin. I was teammates with Russell, so that had a big part of it. So we're kind of the pioneers in that, and we're ready to spread just the principles and properties of Bitcoin to athletes and anyone that wants to know. And yeah, excited to be on the show. Obviously, I love Swan. I wore my Mizzou shirt because Corey went to Mizzou, so shout out to Mizzou. So I'm excited just to hang out with Bitcoiners and talk shop. Appreciate you having me on.
Well, before we move on, I got to hear about the locker room talk. Like, what was it like? Like, would Russell come? Was he like the annoying guy in the locker room talking about Bitcoin all the time? I kind of hope so. Like, what were those conversations?
I mean, it was definitely a common conversation. I mean, Russell has a really cool this outlook on life, right? It's very contrarian. So, whenever you have good, detailed, educated conversations with Russell, it's going to be just you're going to learn something, which I think, you can definitely appreciate. So, obviously, I love economics, was undergrad and major in finance. So a lot of our conversations would always migrate towards Bitcoin. And yeah, it's been cool to see the narrative just change throughout time, where at first it's kind of super risky, almost fun, like in the way that, people that aren't educated look at like Doge right now or some other like this crap coin, right? That this is a fun thing. But now it's turning to where it's okay, we may not understand the properties and the fundamentals of Bitcoin exactly, whether we haven't put the time, but we understand that there's asset inflation and this is legitimate store of value. And obviously the price movement historically is, over 10 to 12 years, it's proven to be a legitimate asset class. So I obviously you see Saquon and other athletes starting to come out. So I'm incredibly bullish on athletes wanting to adopt Bitcoin going forward. So it's good times.
Hell yeah. Sorry, I'm getting like 2 phone calls at once. I gotta put my phone away.
Yeah, no worries.
So distracted today. Not good. It's so difficult. Like I'm so used to like doing my show in my era, like on my setup with my microphone, and here it's just like it's terrible. But yes, you're right. Let's go to something that I really wanted to talk about, mostly because I geek out on this and it was one of the bigger stories of the week. Let's talk about nuclear Bitcoin. I want to talk about this. I want to get some thoughts. Let's talk about the power of the atom and how this might turn the energy FUD on its head. I don't know if you all were paying attention to this, but Compass Mining is partnering up with Ulka, I believe it's called. They're basically make micro-nuclear reactors. I field conversation, but I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts on this. Everyone's like, nah, I don't know nuclear reactors.
I'm looking at it right now. So I don't know. Can anybody elaborate on the initial kind of, because nuclear was big early on, and then it was basically the worry of failures of these reactors, and it largely got shut down. But because of that, it's just kind of permanently been like a taboo way of obtaining energy, if I'm not mistaken, because people have a picture in their minds of the dangers of old, whereas nowadays the safety measures in place, I think, have come a long way. So I don't know enough to have like a decisive opinion either way, but I think it's interesting that Bitcoin inevitably explores all avenues of acquiring energy in the most efficient way possible, and this is one that's going to be explored and either proven or disproven over time. So I guess we'll see.
It's horseshit. All right, they shut down the nuclear power in California. I have to pay high energy costs because of the environmentalists who think it's bad for the environment when it's not bad for the environment. All right, Armani. Sorry, I cut you off, buddy.
No, you didn't, man. You're like my alter ego. If I had that much in me right now, I would definitely. But I would just say, like, without knowing the actual details of it, from like the ingredients of what would make nuclear energy possible in terms of mining. I think from like a real topical standpoint, it's just a lot easier when I share with my friends, like, hey, like, let's address this wholeheartedly, and then they see something cool like a fucking volcano or nuclear reaction. I'm like, okay, I can kind of get behind that. So, the more powerful, energy sources we can rock with, I think it just makes it an easier conversation versus like, traditional avenues. Like, please, the whole point is like to explore it all. So whatever energy they can find, even if it's not a stable one for the long run, I think it's just good. It's good for Bitcoin.
It just bothers me, all these sort of false narratives, right? Like, you've got this stuff going on with Elon and promoting solar and this and that, and like nobody talks about the true cost of any of these things. You can never get the true picture. And there are all these special interests, and at the end of the day, like, people are looking out for themselves. Very few people are actually doing, I think, what's good for the world and the planet. There's always an ulterior motive, and that's why I love Bitcoiners, because we have ulterior motives, but our ulterior motives are aligned with making the world a better place. So I'm just going to sip my blue drink here and stare at American HODL and hope that he says something interesting.
You're not queuing me up for anything interesting.
No. I just want to put you on the spot, bro.
I'll let Sean go. I think Sean has something.
No, I mean, we came out swinging with nuclear energy. I mean, I'm ready to talk Bitcoin, but Brekkie, is my first time talking shop. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not an energy expert by no means. Obviously, I've done this topic, superficial research just on the whole Elon Musk debate, Kathy Wood and Josh Dorsey, like what they've come out with. I read that article, and it just seems like, obviously, if you're a miner, you're incentivized to have cheaper sources of energy. And the difference that, when I read about this, I heard Ross Stevens talk about it. I found it was fascinating. And you saw that take place, obviously, with El Salvador and volcanoes. I love the volcano eyes. I put that tweet out there. But it's like you bring energy or you bring people to the energy source, right? Instead of always trying to capture energy and bring it to dense, highly populated cities, you can turn something that is, nothing's being built economically, but there's a waterfall and there's a stranded energy that you can capture and then, make profit on through Bitcoin mining. And that brings hope to people that want to adopt the Bitcoin network and strategy. So I think that's, unseen before in traditional forms of finance and businesses and energy use. So that's my only statement on that.
Little known fact about HODL. HODL actually worked at Chernobyl when he was also rooming with Satoshi Nakamoto.
That's true.
HODL, maybe you could tell us about that.
Am I back now?
Brekkie, you're back.
Oh, my internet's so bad. I think I caught the tail end of that, Sean. Yes.
Do you want Ben? Should Ben just host for you, Brekkie?
No. I've got it.
This will be a Why Are We Bullish Swan Takeover crossover episode.
This is called Why Are We Swanish?
Why Are We Swanish? It happens every time that Ben promotes an episode where it's just like a killer episode, and I'm just like, and look, you guys are the coolest people I know in the space too, but it's just like, man, and then I get all nervous, and we're good.
Something that's been interesting to me that I've been thinking about a lot recently is, the average American home is up 30% year over year, and I've been having these like conversations just casually with my neighbors where everybody thinks that their home is massively increased in value. But when I broach the conversation with them about inflation, the expansion of the monetary base, and I say, yeah, I know you think your home is up $300,000, but if everyone's home is up 30%, is your home actually up? And everybody just gives you this kind of like Patrick from SpongeBob look where there's like, I don't know, man. Like, they can't work it out because they have the wrong denominator in their head. And if you're measuring your house in United States dollar terms, you are going to, erroneously think that you're up 30% when really, if you want to go get another house, you got to live somewhere, right? You're going to be paying that same 30%. And you might be in a hot market or whatever, but like the average across the board it's up 30% year over year for most people. Whereas me, a Bitcoiner, when I value my home, I look at it where I bought it 2 years ago. The opportunity cost on it was, I'll just say it was 100 Bitcoin. And today I could get, I don't know, like 35 Bitcoin for it. So it was a terrible fucking investment. And when you value things in Bitcoin terms rather than valuing things in dollar terms, everything becomes a lot clearer to you. Whereas I look at all of my neighbors who aren't Bitcoiners, despite my efforts, and they're confused or seemingly confused. And everybody around you thinks that they're getting richer. And this reminds me of, like, if you've read the book, When Money Dies, about what happened in the Weimar Republic when nobody thought that conditions in Germany were going hyperinflationary, pre-Hitler's rise. They just thought everybody was getting richer around them, right? And that's a lot like what we're living through today.
It's interesting how the average price of homes is very closely in line with the amount of monetary debasement that has taken place over the past year. Like in Canada, it was basically more or less right on track with the amount that we printed. It was insane.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and we were talking about stimulus checks. And I asked her, I was like, where do you think those checks are coming from? Where's the money coming from? And her answer was like, oh, taxpayers' money. And I was like, no, they're printing money. They're printing money. Like, people have no idea that this is going on. Like, they're clueless. And I had to explain to her, like, no, they've been printing a whole bunch of money and giving it to us and devaluing the dollar. Where do you think we're headed? So it's like people don't even know that fact. Like, imagine how wrong they are about everything else.
They have this picture. Oh, I was going to say they have this picture in their mind where that's okay as well. Like, what, you know, you say, oh, they're making more money, and then they're giving it to you, but they're not getting the grander picture of like all US dollars in existence just represent the total amount of goods and services that are currently available. So like creating more dollars doesn't mean there's more stuff for everybody. It means it's that same amount of stuff is being divvied up differently depending on who gets the highest percentage of those dollars. And hint, hint, it's not you. It's the people closest to the money spigot, and it's the people who already have assets, because you would have to buy them off of those people to attain them. So if you're working paycheck to paycheck, or if you're one of the people that are likely getting and relying on those government checks from the shutdown, then you're at the bottom end of that ladder in terms of which direction you're headed as well.
Absolutely. And then, you know, you have this sort of situation where if you don't own the assets, you get locked out of ownership in your own society, and it creates a permanent underclass. And you're just codifying all the inequalities and inequities that have existed in the American system forever and in the global system, you know, where essentially you have the haves and the have-nots. And it's so intractable that it'll never be broken. And that's the world we're entering. And it's scary to me and to anybody who's paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, the price of entry to own assets, right, is this continuing to rise and match incongruency the Fed balance sheet, right? Like, that was a big thing for me in adopting Bitcoin, was when you denominate assets by the Fed balance sheet size, everything's flat, and you see the only thing that is accreting and outperforming the monetary expansion rate is Bitcoin, right? And that when you start to change things, like you said, okay, you bought the home and it's up X amount, but in terms of Bitcoin, when you denominate it in Bitcoin, for the opportunity cost, you see that, okay, that was not a great decision. And it's sad too, because to your point, what I've experienced, most of the people that I talk to that either have concerns or are completely just anti-Bitcoin are the ones that, they haven't done the research. There's definitely a correlation of time spent to understand it and how much conviction you have and where do you see the trajectory of Bitcoin going. But it's sad that the ones that are so bullish or so dogmatic on being anti-Bitcoin, they are in that group that doesn't have investable assets. And I think you just have to be intentional with your time, right? You get caught in the trap of life and you have a job, you're going 9 to 5, you have a family, and then you get in debt. You're trying to pay the debt off from college. You're listening to different people on social media, Ramsey, save. And then you see headlines and you just formulate these opinions, and then you don't question and think for yourself. And then you're like, oh, CPI is not bad. Inflation is not bad. I'm just going to save and do what I'm told. And yeah, look, SPY index went up 8%. I'm building wealth. Like, are you actually building wealth? So explain how to build wealth, because the people that, to Ben's point, where it's like the people that are really getting the inside part of the pie, like where they were really benefiting from all the stimulus, they got it, at some point, before Bitcoin was even created. They understood, okay, you need assets, hard assets in particular, and then, you leverage it and you can take it, your loans and the denominating asset and put in enterprises and assets that are continue to accrete. So it's now you look at what's going on going forward. Is it the current way, or is it, okay, we have a new thing. It's not gold, it's Bitcoin. And that's going to be the pristine collateral going forward. And I think it's just going to take time to explain it, but it takes definitely a certain level of thinking.
So how do we get people to see that there is a problem? Because I think that might be the first step. Like, I saw a tweet. I can't remember who tweeted it. Somebody we know, and they were basically talking about this problem. And the example they gave about how to kind of get this across was like, a few years ago, $5 would buy you a foot-long sub at Subway, and now it gets you a 6-inch sub at Subway.
I just tweeted that today.
Was that you? Okay, that's
yeah, that was me. Yeah.
Okay, I knew I saw it somewhere. And then it's like that's a great example, or like a Toblerone bar. Like it's gotten smaller and smaller over the years, and so like for people who are conditioned, like I was conditioned. My dad is still conditioned. I think he's almost there. They think that printing money is normal. Like you've grown up with printing money, so why shouldn't it be normal? Like how do we break through to people with everyday examples and get them to realize that no, this is not how things have always been. Without necessarily, like, yes, I want to give them like layered money and like the Bitcoin standard, but people don't always read that, Like, how do we break through? That's my question.
I mean, for me, I was lucky because my dad, was, found gold as, attractive asset for him. So at an early age, I was explained, kind of just the system and central bank fallacies and the idea of money, and already had that contrarian view going into undergrad. But it takes a certain time, right, to just, disrupt your way of thinking and just question. It's okay to question and relearn what we've been taught and not assume everything that's being taught from the system as truth. And I don't know, like, it's just a deep question. Like, what is it? Like initially, and it's unfortunate to say, I feel like a lot of people are just so encaptivated by short-term gains and profits, right? It's like, okay, when the price is, a lot of it associated to the price of Bitcoin, right? And it's like people that understand it, like ourselves and everyone else that I've met that understand it the way we see it, we don't talk about price. We're not concerned by price. But I think right now, unfortunately, the majority, think, okay, if price is up, then we're brilliant. And if it's down, then we're foolish. So if they have an opportunity to make profit on it, then they might want to understand more. But I know for a fact it definitely comes to at some point having skin in the game and investing their own capital into it, because that's what makes them follow it. But to get them to do that, I mean, if we all knew, I think everyone would be Bitcoiners then.
It's tough because like the current system, it necessitates that the average person does not have low time preference, or even do they even think in longer time frames, right? Because if you think in longer time frames, then it's very easy to recognize the problem of reduced purchasing power and the influence on society. And on the inverse, Bitcoin, in order to truly understand it, it absolutely necessitates having that low time preference and that kind of zoomed out, like long-term view of the system, because the short-term volatility is so great. Anybody that, like everybody in society who's been conditioned to think on short time frames because of the I guess osmosis of living in a fiat world, they're forced to think in those little bite-sized pieces of, okay, I get my paycheck this week, and what do the next 2 weeks look like? And that's pretty much how most people live. They don't think of the long term. And Bitcoin, it doesn't work that way, because if you're thinking in 2-week increments or a few month increments or even just a single year, you're probably not gonna do very well in it. But if you're able to actually zoom out, you look at a decade worth of price data on a log chart, and it's basically just slanting upwards. And when you're able to see it in that frame, it makes a lot more sense. But if you're sitting there every single day going, oh my God, we're up a few $100, we're down a few $100, we're up 10%, we're down 10, it's impossible. You're never going to get it. So it's breaking that framework of you're constantly concerned of the short term and actually stepping back and thinking about long-term goals, I think.
I think the thing that's tough is, like, essentially from where we sit today, there is no American middle class and there is no global middle class. It's a myth at this point. And what you have is the richest of the rich, and you have the poorest of the poor, and then you have a bunch of people in the middle who were born into a self-image that they're trying to perpetuate by using debt. And this debt ends up being, chains that weigh them down. And so they're basically stuck where they're at, and they're stuck at the limits of their perception. And, you don't have an American middle class anymore. You have a bunch of poor people using debt to pretend like they're not poor. And it makes me sad all the time. I always try and talk to them and make them see it. But, they're like, allegorically, they're in the cave. You know what I mean? And they think the shadows on the wall are real. And I don't know, man. It's not until you have a moment in your life where you can slip through the cracks and see it from a different vantage point where you're going to come to the realization that you need Bitcoin. And unfortunately, for the vast majority of people, that moment is going to come all at once, a la when the Titanic's ass goes all the way up in the air and it's about to fucking sink. That's the moment you know the boat is really fucked and you're about to drown, right? when we're about to hit the iceberg, no one's listening to you. 10 minutes after we hit the iceberg, no one's listening to you. There's water around my ankles. Bro, that's just a little bit of water. There's water up to my knees. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. You know what I mean? That's the world we're living in right now. And it's unfortunate.
How far do you think we are from that? Because like all my timelines have kind of been thrown off by everything that's happened this year. You know, and seeing like Jerome Powell and the central bankers like ramping up their digital currency initiatives, and like I feel like it's just everything's accelerated. And I thought that a few months ago, and now it's even more. So how high up is the water? Is it up to my ankles or my knees? What's going on, man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can know when you're in hyperinflationary conditions, and we've never had a global reserve currency that's a fiat currency before that has hyperinflated. But you have to kind of ask yourself, like, what would it look like? Might it look like global protest movements, massive civil unrest? Might it look like a man in a Viking hat storming the U.S. Capitol, 50 million Americans out of work while stock markets are at all-time highs? Might it look like every Gen Z TikTok kid YOLOing their money into ass coin or diarrhea coin? Ask yourself. Might it look like everybody's house up 30% year over year? Like, these are the beginnings of the loss of faith in the dollar, because the dollar is just an illusion. It's a confidence game. It's a shell game. And once people lose faith in it, it's over. And so the cracks and the fissures are there. Now that the mainstream press is talking about inflation, it's only a matter of time before things go south in a hurry. And so that's where we're at. And I don't know. We're not going to know until we look back. That's the truth, because we live in it. We swim in it, How do you know the ocean's getting polluted when you live in the ocean? Yeah.
The shift in narrative has been very quick around inflation, though. Like it went so quickly from there is no inflation to it's transitory to it's good. Like that was like this year that it was. Yep. It was crazy.
So insane.
I just got to give a shout out to Narwhal for the wordplay in the chat. Diarrhea coin is running, folks. That's a good one. That's a great one, folks.
What was the headline that CNBC had? It was inflation silver lining, higher salaries,
higher wages. Yep.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, that's the craziest thing.
Did you see the ECB? The ECB tweeted out something from a speech, and they were like trying to stop the vicious circle of low inflation. That was one of their headlines. Like,
the craziest thing to me, other than those headlines, is that people actually eat that up. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's the silver lining, of course." And it's like they can't break through that wall to actually think, like, wait a minute, is this actually okay, or what are they feeding us right now? Like, what? They just eat it up.
They're looking for a solution, right? They're looking for a solution. The solution is Bitcoin and everything Bitcoiners are saying, and yet their mind isn't ready to accept that. And so, Christine Lagarde and Janet Yellen come up with their own podcast, and they're like, this sounds great. I'm going to listen to this.
But well, and people don't think, I don't think people are very good at following the reasoning down the line beyond even the people that kind of wrap their head around like the first order effects of things. So I have a pretty, I would say, one of my smartest friends, and I put up something about inflation the other day and its effects. And he said, yeah, but the flip side of that is that it makes my debt a lot easier to afford. So I'm cool with that. And I'm thinking, would the debt be necessary to get those assets that you had if you weren't constantly trying to catch up in terms of wages to chase the inflation that is happening? Like it's constantly a struggle to pay for the same number of hours to cover the same amount of goods and services as it used to be.
Not only that, Ben, but think about it. Here's where it gets incredibly insidious. BlackRock is out there buying up, tens of thousands of regular American homes. And at the same time, you have Wells Fargo shutting off everybody's HELOCs and personal lines of credit. So they're creating a caste system where you're not going to have access to the debt. So even if that is the flip side, it's going to be beneficial for them and not for you.
Yeah. That's crazy. When did that? So the Wells Fargo thing. How long? I remember seeing it. What
It's like
exactly
last
did
week.
they do?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
last.
they shut off all personal equity lines of credit under $100,000. So basically, they said plebs can't use debt. Wells Fargo
Under
is not
100K.
Yeah, Wells Fargo is no longer going to service regular people for personal equity lines of credit or for home equity lines of credit. Think about that shit. They're trying to lock you out of the system.
I think they realize that it's a losing game, right? Because the people are never going to be able to pay it back, and the wages are definitely not going to keep up with the levels of inflation that we're going to see as the money multiplier effect takes hold with all the money that was just printed.
Exactly. Why do you need to court the average American citizen when the Fed is just injecting money straight to you? You don't need to.
Yeah, guaranteed money versus some degree of risk.
So yeah, but the point is regular people are going to have less and less access to debt because they know that. The banks are not stupid. They know that inflation is going to, decrease the debt load, and so they're not going to loan debt out to regular people.
One thing I'm really interested in is, like, you guys spoke to, like, a qualifying factor for kind of being properly orange pilled is the ability to zoom out. And this is something that I've definitely spoken with my friends about, like being on the younger side, at least in terms of those who would have an economy to even ideate around. And I think it's really challenging because everyone is definitely coming from their own, I'm from New York City, so I have like the luxury and the privilege of being like the receiving end of a lot of the analogies. So like it's a store of value. Think like Manhattan in 19, like I could really walk across my neighborhood and be like, yeah, okay, I could see how Bowery was a big ass deal of a purchase, back in the 20s, and I think there's like that information gap that's there. But then also just like the ability to zoom out, I think is a privilege, and having a moment to pause and to kind of have the world more or less take a moment to just be like, what the fuck is going on between COVID, the riots, and then everything that kind of effectively came from that, even getting a chance to take a glance at like, the systematic and institutional, inequalities. Finance is obviously like tied to all of it. I think some people's pauses were longer than others. I've still had the ability to take a pause. My economy has not shifted me in such a way where I have to go back to the cycle and like constantly think. So I think it's a real privilege, and I think that's probably the space that we should best attack, because for some it's over. COVID is like done for pragmatic reasons, everything else is done for reasons. You haven't given it an honest thought. So I think if we can keep playing in that area and try and find a way to create an artificial pause for those who don't have it because they have to go back to work right after getting home at 8 p.m., that's where our school situation is somewhat blind, because I think that's been the toughest thing. We don't have time to like deconstruct 35 plus years of how could they?
Hey folks, I have to apologize. My internet connection is so bad that I only caught about 50% of what Armani was saying. I assume it was all amazing. But I did see that Corey has joined us, so I wanted to give him a little bit of a layup. Corey, welcome to the show. We've got two alumni on the show from one amazing school. What was that like? Tell us about it.
Man, Mizzou, what can we say? I will say that we did not have the lazy river that I hear is like the big attraction these days. We did not have that. We did have the incredible rec center with basically like 16 hours a day of pickup basketball, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, Mizzou is great. I went there for journalism school, got a broadcast degree. I was a little pencil neck reporting for the local NBC station at age 19. I have beta tapes in the garage. I found them, actually brought them back from Seattle. You'll never see them. I don't have a beta tape player. But yeah, beta is this thing that was like, before you kids had all your digital cameras and everything. But
Camila's like, what the hell are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
It's like the Ethereum of video players.
Basically. But yeah, no, Mizzou is great, man. I really, I like college towns. I think they're a great thing that if you're lucky enough to experience it, going to school in a place like Columbia or like a Lawrence or like a Madison or something like that is something that is almost uniquely American and is very different from going to undergrad in a city. Because there's no such thing as being BMOC in Manhattan. This just doesn't happen. Like all the social stuff is being, all the good stuff is being picked off by dudes that are way out of school. So it is fun to be in a college town. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and the best experience you could have being an athlete, I think, is a small town like that. Like it's a college town where, football matters to them. When I went to the Chargers in LA, like they're not concerned, okay, cool, you pay for the Chargers. Like they're wondering, okay, do you have a startup? Like, it's just the fan base. There's so many different teams. So, beyond, the Rams left, but you have the Chiefs, but Mizzou is pretty much the biggest collegiate, football team there that everyone's obsessed with. So my experience there was second to none. And great times. Wish I could have gone there with Corey, but
yeah,
we'll have to go back. Funny, we want to teach a class, right? We want to go back.
We're going to go back.
Class.
You, me, and once we get Ben Askren to get rid of some of the crypto, he can come too if he agrees to just talk about Bitcoin there. Yeah, it's a good squad. It's a good squad.
It'll be good.
You guys got a proper sports college environment. I had to compete with like a master class from the founder of HBO. Like that was the choice that was being made between my Saturday game and that. So good for y'all.
Nice. So why are we bullish? Oh wait, this is our show, isn't it?
It's why are we Swanish, Corey?
Why are we Swanish? Yes.
Yeah, I did. I was saying that I did wear my Swan shirt that I grabbed from the Swan Dome in Miami. So
I love that. Yeah, that's the Swan stamp. So the story there is my brother's band in Seattle used to take vintage T-shirts and then like stamp their logo on top of it. And so, yeah, we sent somebody to go buy like 100 vintage T-shirts up in Chicago and sorted through all the best ones we could find and blasted the Swan logo on top.
That's awesome. I love it. This is one of my favorite shirts right now.
That's great.
Awesome.
To all the folks who stole them from the Dome without asking, you're welcome. You have a great limited edition shirt now. Please wear it out in public and tell people all about Bitcoin.
Hey Brett, can we talk for a second about how okay, there was a great moment, two great moments in the Swan Dome in Miami. Both have to do with Ben Price. I found them funny anyways. I don't know if the Swan team did.
Well, first, there were definitely more than two great moments. There were like a million great moments. But yes, go on.
Yeah. The first one was, I believe it was Brandon Quittem, Greg Foss, and myself sitting, and we were all part of the pod there. And then I think Quittem had to get up, go do something, and Ben Price comes in like totally unannounced and like. And I don't think Brady like recognized him or knew who he was. And he just kind of like unannounced, like saunters over to the mic and like just takes a seat, like grabs some headphones and Brady looks over and he's like, "Oh, hello. We have a new guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?" And like, luckily he's like, I could have gone anyway with this, but but then like also Ben Price is just he's just a unique guy. And it was when I think Greg Foss and Jeff Booth, and I can't remember who else was sitting with them, but all three of them were up there. Brady was interviewing them, and you were like dealing with just an absolute mess of cables and everything. And then Ben Price comes up and he's like, "Yo, man, can I just like plug my iPhone in here?" And you're like, you're doing a live feed and you're like, "I guess, man." And he's like, he's fiddling with like the power bar that's powering the entire operation, like wiggling it. Or he's like, "Oh, well, Fit, can I just?" And he goes to like plug it into your laptop as it's actively like running the feed. You're like, "Come on, man, chill out." Like, I died both times, and I'm sure he's done many of those things at it just every chance he gets. It was great.
Did you guys read Rolling Stone's piece about the Miami Bitcoin conference? I thought it was interesting because the tone of it was essentially like, yeah, these people are in an insane religious cult, but also this cult is winning. And I was like, that's not too off base from reality, you know?
Yeah, I did read that piece, and it was you start reading it and you're like, screw this guy, and then you get halfway through, you're like, no, this is accurate.
I hadn't seen that. That is New York Times? Glamour no, it's Rolling Stone. It's a glamour shot of Spetsky right there.
Yeah, Spetsky. Spetsky looks like they said Hellboy meets Kelly Slater, He's like glowing red, and yeah, it's a good piece because it paints us as the insane religious acolytes that we are, but also it's like, hey, these guys are winning, and I was like, yeah, we are. Yeah. What's the difference between why is Christianity not a cult? Because Christianity won. Why is Bitcoin not going to be a cult? Because we're going to fucking win.
I follow the Coin Dad. He's a miner, I think. I met him down in Miami, and he tweeted, he's like, man, I gave such a long, in-depth answer to the questions, and the one quote that I had was talking about how I'm obsessed with this being on Bitcoin Twitter. Every time I take a shit, like I'm just like on it, and that's the only quote. He's like, of everything I said, you're just gonna talk about how I'm on the toilet on Twitter. Awesome.
He also the reporter was like 2 paragraphs are devoted to a pseudonym called Boner for Bitcoin. And it's like Boner for Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, Bitcoin.
You can't blame them though.
It's so good. I mean, it's great. I loved it.
I mean, when you saw Max Kaiser hit the stage and just start screaming "fuck Elon," you know what's going to happen in the media circles, because like anybody that is not big on Bitcoin is going to use that clip for like a decade moving forward. And anytime there's like a clip or something that's trying to make the case that Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, it's gonna be Max up there screaming and the lights going and everybody cheering. That's gonna be the clip that gets used. But part of it, I'm also okay with that because it's just longer to stack sats, I suppose.
That's what Max wanted. They're falling right into Max's trap.
Yeah, because eventually he's going to be like, I was right. All you guys were wrong, and I was right. So
it's true.
It's going to play well.
Yeah. Everybody's going to be excited as Max one day.
Max has been the crazy person, the quote-unquote crazy person for a while, and yet he's been the sane one the entire time. Time will tell, but...
Yeah, he's a gem. I had him on the show like a few weeks ago, and like it was his second time on. The first time was basically like a screaming like number go up rant, which great, love that. The second time I was expecting something similar, and he curveballed me with like his in-depth like, I think that the idea for Bitcoin was implanted and downloaded via SETI at home in the 90s, and then proliferated the like, growth of the cypherpunks. You never know what you're gonna get.
He's a multifaceted guy. There was one time he came on, and I was like you. I was hoping for a rant. I was like, okay, I want the views. I really want a Max rant, and he didn't. He was very, very calm and collected, and and at the end, I was like, look, Max, I really wanted a rant, and he kind of gave us one, but then he actually went and explained how he does the rant and why he does the rant and the theory behind the rant and how to properly do one. And it's very calculated, and it takes a lot of knowledge, and you have to really know what you're ranting about. You can't just be screaming out of nowhere. It doesn't, then you are really crazy. So it's people should take a second look every time Max is ranting.
Yeah,
figure out why
respect the art.
Respect the rant. That's it. Oh man, Corey, how are you doing today? How's California? I miss it. And how's Swan doing? How many people are signing up for Swan? How many people are getting paid in Bitcoin today? Give us the dirt.
Well, I think it appears that about 77% of our customer base is getting paid in Bitcoin today. So that's good. Yeah, it's pretty solid. No, man, things are good. I mean, people stacking the dip. We had a huge rush of people come back and smash yesterday. I think we saw a 31 handle on there for a little bit, back up at 32 today. But yeah, no, we feel great. We have been feverishly building the factory and getting ready for the next run up, and we're just like much more secure in the systems that we have, the people in place. Like it's just it's quite the machine at this point. Really excited to have Brian Lockhart on the team full time. It's a great addition. He's running Swan Advisor Services to make it easier and better to integrate with us for like FAs and RIAs and money managers, basically. got some other folks like Terrence Yang selling on the sales team full time for private client services. A lot of people know him from the Bitcoin Club on Clubhouse. Super smart guy, really, really nice. But yeah, that's it, man. Just getting ready for the next pump. You know, you guys know what we're working on. Glad to have Armani on U.S. soil. finally not trying to dial into team meetings at like midnight Norway time.
That was right.
Yep. And yeah, looking forward to getting up with Sean again soon and playing some hoops again and getting out with some of these Bitcoiners.
My shot needs to be a little better next time.
I surprised the audience that day, I think.
Hey, you can play. Corey can play now. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
Armani, you need to come.
Tell Armani.
Yeah.
I seen the highlights, man. They're in the Slack.
In the archives.
Right.
I can't play basketball for shit, but somebody once taught me when shooting that I had to save the swan. I had to save the swan. I had to go like that. I don't know if that's right, but
there you go.
It didn't really help me very much, but
nice. Well, guys, I got to get ready for another meeting here in a couple minutes, but awesome to see you. I just had to dip in and say have a great weekend. Ben, great to see you. HODL, great to see you, brother.
Peace.
Everybody, all my swans. Peace
Good to
out.
see you,
take
man.
it easy, Corey.
Hey, man.
Later.
Jacqueline Tejada in the chat. I love Swan. Thank you all. Great community vibe. I feel like I belong. You do belong. We all belong to this thing called Bitcoin. Feeling the love right now, folks.
HODL, I wanted to ask you.
No, Ben.
Yeah.
Camilla's talking.
I wanted to ask you your inspiration behind starting that new DCA plan that you're doing, and like looking at it in the next 10 years. Like, where did that idea come from?
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm not using Swan for this, guys, but on my wife's phone, I opened up her Cash App and I set a daily recurring buy, $20 a day, and then I just deleted the account and the password. So I have no fucking idea how to get back into this account.
You're so just setting the floor.
Yeah, the idea is 10 years from now, I'm going to, because I ran the math. Okay, here's the math. I think this is good math to know for everybody. So Bitcoin had a 200% CAGR over the last 10 years. We assume that CAGR might diminish this decade going forward. So let's assume Bitcoin has somewhere between a 50 and 100% CAGR over the next 10 years. So we'll take the median 75%, right? If you do $10 a day into Bitcoin over the next 10 years and you get a 75% CAGR, that's $3.6 million at the end of 10 years. So the purchasing power will be lower on that, obviously because of the monetary expansion, but still it's a pretty good lure to keep in your head. So $20 a day, double it. So, in 10 years, if Bitcoin does what we all think it's going to do, I'm going to go through my Cash App account recovery, process. And hopefully there's going to be $7 million in there. We'll see. We'll see how it works out.
I hope you tweeted Jack your plan just so if
I got a spy on the inside. Yeah, I got.
Yeah, some lackey kid is like, I'm not giving guy this access to this account. Who the hell is this guy?
Well, I think it is important though, just to do these things, whether it's through Swan or anything that allows DCA, where you're taking it out of your emotion, you're not going to be subject to the day-to-day emotions. So geographically distributed multisig is another thing. My main stash is in, the keys are spread all over the place. So I have to take air.
Yeah, what was the details of that?
Bermuda. No, so I have to take I have to take airplane rides to get to each of my keys if I'm going to sign and send a transaction out, and that's a big impediment. So if I'm having a feeling I'm scared, I want to sell, the price is going up, right? I'd have to get on multiple airplane rides and go around and collect my key signatures. Same thing with DCA. If I don't even remember that the DCA is happening, I'm not going to have an emotional reaction to it. So yeah, it's people who do the best in the stock market are people who died and then didn't have a beneficiary listed for their account. So their account just continued to be invested, right? It's the same idea. You have to treat yourself like you're dead, or at least become dead inside so that you can weather
the man in the coma.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget. The price will drop and I'll be like, shit, I buy Bitcoin today. And then I'll remember that I have auto set up. And I'm like, okay, good. And by the way, folks at home, geographically distributed keys does not mean in your garage, in your living room, and under your bed. Okay, just so you know, don't do that.
You got to go a little further apart. You know.
Did everybody see that? Speaking of multi-sig, did everybody see the like Tinder Casa debacle of the guy getting drugged? That was why. Like, if anybody doesn't know what that was, some dude basically, first of all, on his Tinder profile, he was like, "Yo, I'm into Bitcoin," or whatever the hell he had in there, and so like. Red flag number one, just don't fucking do that. But he meets up with some girl who he was suspicious because she didn't look like her profile picture. But my understanding is that's how online dating works. But regardless,
he still went back.
Yeah,
because it said like, hey, I was suspicious. It didn't look quite like the person, on the site. But then that night they ended up going back to their place for drinks. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
He's a guy, so he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna play through." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, to the earlier points, at least Bitcoin is becoming associated as okay. If you're on Bitcoin, maybe you have money. Like maybe at least if that's what it takes for people to, understand it. I don't know. Like at least it's
internet money. Yeah, it's not just a game. It's like
Well, let me ask you some dating advice then, because I have in my Twitter, whatever swiping apps that I never use, profile that I work for Swan Bitcoin. And my logic is I don't want to waste time trying to find someone who doesn't like Bitcoin. It's like one of those anti-Bitcoin people. So I'd rather just be upfront about it. Or am I painting a target on my back and I'm about to get rugged like this, like that poor schmuck?
Well, let's, I don't know. It's a good question. Because
it's going to come up at some point. But I guess date number one is when you get rugged. If you get,
I think you use some common sense
unless
here,
we're talking
Brekkie.
about
I mean, if this girl's like a 10 and she's got a weird Russian accent, she keeps asking about your ledger and stuff, you might want to bail. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be. Like,
hey, unless it's Elena Satoshi, in which case, what a date! That's a great date right there.
Yeah, exactly. But like this guy was only saved because he had the multi-sig geographically distributed, right? Like, so they basically drugged him up so that all his inhibitions were gone. And then they started, like, she was there, or there might have been another person even present, where they were basically like, hey, so what are your passwords and how do we get into this? And so he just willy-nilly gave him up at that point because he was too drugged up to like truly understand what he was doing. And so I don't think he even had like Bitcoin sitting on his phone, but they did get access to a couple exchanges that he actually had funds on. But the bulk of his wealth was in a good distributed multi-sig. So there was only one key present, and they would have needed, I think, 2 others to access it, because I think it was a 3 of 5. So he basically saved his ass through no fault of his own, through all of the red flags, and basically saying that he was into Bitcoin on a dating app, and then going to, hang out with this person who he was heavily suspicious of, and still going through with it. And then apparently after the fact, when obviously this was going to get some traction, like on social media, after the fact, I guess he went back to Casa and was like, on second thought, I kind of, maybe this is like, also maybe people will be able to figure out who I am, and so maybe can you take that down? But like total Streisand effect, now everybody's talking about it. So
did they take it down?
They took it down.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's such a good lesson, that because usually the girls are the ones that get drugged and blah blah taken advantage of, but it's like no, it can be guys, girls, anyone. Especially because the girl on her Twitter, on the dating app, she said she was into Bitcoin and crypto. Yeah. And so that's how they kind of like started the conversation, like, oh, we have something in common. And it's no.
It didn't happen to my friend exactly like this, and it wasn't a dating, like a Bitcoin thing, but thieves can be pretty creative. Like basically what happened to my friend is the criminals, or whatever they were, they piped like gas into the apartment that knocked her out, and then robbed the place.
No way.
Like, so like they don't even need to go through the whole like Tinder bullshit. They could just get into your house when you're there, when you're not there. Like, you never know. So Protect your keys. That's it.
There's this thing called the carbon monoxide detector that you should probably have in your home. Just
No, I had to take mine down so that it doesn't set. Every time I cook in the oven, it's like it's too much hassle.
I mean, a good rule of thumb. You should just think like if somebody was standing in front of me with a gun and basically forcing me to give them all my Bitcoin, could I do it? Like that's your question you need to ask yourself.
100%. It almost needs like be like a crash course. I know when we want, your first months as when you get on campus, they almost have like people come in and just basically just explain to you all the risk and all the red flags and just understand like, hey, this is what happens when alcohol is involved. Just because like if you look at history with athletes and just bad occurrences happening, it's just there definitely needs to be just caution, explain, and understand. So I mean, it's kind of neat to see that Bitcoin is now in the equation on, man, just having Bitcoin in your profile is automatically linked to wealth. So yeah, there definitely needs to be some just coaching.
I'm not getting caught up that easily though. I mean, the whole idea behind this is, no trust, just verify. The fact that he was so calm with the this is close enough. My man has probably done millions upon millions of transactions. He's out here reading the last four, the first four, but with this, he's like, nah, I can rock with this. Good advertisement for,
Is it a Bitcoin address? I'm pretty sure that's mine.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, no, I caught it. That's concerning to say the least. So
one of the attack vectors that people don't consider is the exchange accounts, because even if you don't have Bitcoin on the exchange accounts, if your bank account is still linked, thieves, if they get access, they'll pull money, buy Bitcoin, send it to themselves, right? So you want to make sure that if you do have an exchange account, you're using a YubiKey or something like that, and you're unlinking your bank accounts every time, essentially, because you don't want to leave it linked and then somebody gets access to your whatever and then they get in, steal your shit.
I want a good stat that just says 100% non-finessed rate for all Bitcoiners. Like we've never gotten got. No one's ever sold. I need good data around that, because if I'm hearing anybody getting falling for a ruse, I'm definitely concerned about the atmosphere. It's not toxic enough then if we're not seeking out any type of a naivety.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure this guy was a shitcoiner, the Casa customer. Pretty sure. Just that's how it sounded to me. Anyway, I'm just saying we don't claim him. It's not ours.
No, but if someone is still buying shitcoins, I don't approve. But I don't want them to lose their shitcoins either. What little money and value they have left in that shitty coin, I would like them to hold on to it so eventually they can dump it for Bitcoin.
Brekkie, you're a good man. You're a good man.
I try. Oh man, Ben, tell us about the show coming up. Why are you about to be bullish?
I'm about to be bullish because of who I get to chat to in about an hour and a half here. I get to chat with Jeff Booth, author of Price of Tomorrow, which is incredible. Everybody should read it.
You're going to have to turn his microphone up, by the way, just in advance.
Oh, yeah, I know. Jeff is often,
quiet,
especially when he's quiet when I have him on the show with fucking you.
Which is a power move, though. It's a power move. If you speak very, very quietly, then people have to listen.
It is 100%. But yeah, so I've got Jeff Booth, I've got Elise Colleen, and so she was the girl on stage. I don't know if anybody who saw the clip, but basically there was some shitcoin or DeFi guy on stage, and he's talking about all of the things that Bitcoin can plug into and be abstracted into, and all of these other systems built on Bitcoin, and and she basically just totally wiped him out and said, I totally disagree with basically everything that was said. If these altcoins, and she was kind enough to say altcoins, but she said if these altcoins succeed, it will be because of Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin succeeds, it will be in spite of altcoins. And it was just a beautiful takedown. So she's on. And then I've also got Marty Bent, of course, from TFTC. And then I've got Vijay Boyapati, author of The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. So it's just
that's a hot panel.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've been lucky. There's been some solid ones. Sean was on recently. Camilla's on next week, I think. Yeah. So yeah, no, there's been some awesome people joining the show. I'm lucky that they'll give me any time at all.
I'll be honest, I think I'm most jealous of Elise. We're going to have her on Swan Signal, I think, next week, possibly 2 weeks from then. She's like one of those people that I send over her stuff to anyone who is on the DeFi side of things and take that opposite position, because her maximalism is so rational and logic-based that it just destroys all arguments, and it's amazing. So
I loved her talk on she was talking about, and who was this with? It might have been with Press and Pish, I think. But she was on with him, and she was talking about why you don't need a token, a separate blockchain and a token to create a stable coin. And she was talking about having effectively I can't remember exactly the technicals of it, but she was talking about lightning channels utilized in such a way where one side is basically a long Bitcoin and the other side is basically like
dollar denominated lightning channels, basically.
Yeah.
Those dollar denominated lightning channels. It's
yeah. It was awesome. Anyway, she's so intelligent, and I really enjoy her take on the lack of a need for all of these, external crappy extra tokens.
I think we're going to have her with Lynn Alden, if I'm not mistaken.
Oof.
So it's going to be a good one.
That's good. Solid.
So stay tuned. I've got such a delay I can barely participate in this conversation. And therefore, I think it's time that we end the show. Come to the end. I kind of want to go around real quick. If anyone has any final thoughts they wanted to share, what they're Swanish about before we go on, and I urge everyone watching to go watch Ben's show later. Camila, what are you Swanish about? I know you've got some really cool stuff going on in the Spanish-speaking world with Swan.
Yeah, I'm super Swanish about the Spanish show that Javier and I are doing, especially with everything that's going on in South America right now with the bill that Paraguay launched, and it was like complete BS, all of it. And so like Javier and I are just commentating on the whole thing and following it. So it's been a really good show, and just kind of getting more Hispanic and Latin American people to just start joining the conversation and listening to these conversations, so that somewhere along the way they can get orange pilled or share it with someone that they want to get orange pilled. So super bullish on that, super bullish on everything that's going on in Latin America. I feel like we're just getting started despite the crappy politicians that are just LARPing with laser eyes, but we'll get over that. Brekkie may have frozen.
I think he's frozen. I'll take it up next. I'll just jump in here. I am Swanish. I'm going to stay on your topic of Latin America. I'm Swanish because the other day I tweeted out that I was effectively, quote unquote, open sourcing a ton of my tutorial videos for people to dub, and I've had a few people reach out and say, hey, we're gonna help you doing some overdubs of some of these tutorials. So I've had a couple people that are helping out, but if anybody out there is kind enough to, basically it got to the point where I was like, I can't do it out of pocket, so I'm just gonna take my videos, I'm gonna slap them in a Google Drive, and then and Brekkie's frozen. But yeah, I slapped them all in a Google Drive, and I said, anybody that wants to do a dub of these in Spanish, go ahead, and then feel free to upload them anywhere that you like. The most important thing is that people have access to them. So yeah, if anybody wants to jump on that train, there's a tweet thread somewhere. Maybe I'll pin it to my profile, but feel free to jump in there. And I'm going to upload, I just realized I can download English transcripts from YouTube. They'll probably be kind of not great because the Bitcoin terms will get a little jarbled there, but at least it's a starting point. So yeah, that I'm bullish on people being nice enough to translate some of my tutorials for Spanish speaking people.
I'll definitely promote that on our show. So that
Swanish. I meant Swanish.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm Swanish because personally, I just ordered all the equipment today to run my my own node. So I'm excited to go on that journey. Yeah.
Nice.
So Ben, I might be reaching out just to get some more information on that. So I'm super pumped for that. And then also just the conversations that I've had with other athletes and just finding out other the situations financially where, and it's sad, and I tweeted about this, but just how athletes and entertainers as a whole, like we've just been taken advantage of by rent seekers, and the amount of money and this destroying of wealth that has occurred, and people are waking up, right? This whole conversation has been like, well, what do we need for mass adoption? Well, people need to wake up, understand, question, and think for yourself. And it's happening. And I see an opportunity for me and what I've done and what I plan to do going forward. And I'm trying not to cuss, but I'm hyped, man. I'm hyped to just put an end to that and preserve wealth for athletes that are risking their health in a sport and getting compensated for something that, long term, you might not have anything to show for it. And that's why I'm bullish.
Man, you and Armani got to put your heads together, because he's been a champion of this cause also for a while. I think every time I say something like that, I feel like a parent that's like, "Oh, you two should go on a play date," and like nobody likes that, so I'm gonna stop doing that. Armani, why are you Swanish, man?
That's hilarious, man. No, it's all right. Brekkie, you can broker a time for us to meet. Yeah, for a lot of the reasons obviously that Sean said, that's really dope. But I think personally, anecdotally, at the moment, I'm most Swanish because my wife and I were turned away at the border trying to get here like earlier this month during like the COVID protocols, and Biden had just made an exemption for families to ultimately come from Europe back to the States. And obviously I'm fortunate I'm here now in the States. I'm with my family in Orlando visiting them. Home base is New York, but just like the thought that at that moment when I had all of my physical belongings that I had literally checked in that were no longer in my possession, knowing that like, well, what the fuck? Like, at this moment, I'm kind of like exceptionally vulnerable. And this is just like a very fickle example of what people deal with all the time. And I think might have been Guy Swan. I heard his podcast. He was talking about like, check your economic privilege. And, there's a lot of things that I'm weary of, I think from the athlete standpoint, but then global just from a global mindset, it's just like it really hit like, damn, it's amazing that they would literally have to bring me into a room to try and extract a couple words from my head to get the thing that's probably most meaningful to purchase back whatever Jordans I had in my luggage. Like that was probably the most important possession there. So I'm thankful for a global borderless monetary asset that can travel with in moments like that. I mean, it's just that in that moment it really hit. So that's it for me. Thankful for my DCA plan.
Hell yeah.
HODL, I think you're last. Take us home.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm bullish because here we are, $31,000. People are in a panic. Oh my God, it crashed to $31,000. Listen, I started buying Bitcoin at $200. Okay, so not only do I still have my edge from back then, but I've been proven right, and we are going to continue to be proven right going forward. And it's not like I'm waiting on millions of dollars to come for Bitcoin. No, I have my block clock set to sats per dollar, which is a countdown clock to zero for fiat, and it keeps going lower and fucking lower. And I don't see any reason that's going to stop, because essentially, think about it like this. Everybody's heard the stat that 25% of the money that's ever been printed in the history of the American Republic was printed in the last 12 months. One of the stats people may not know is that 80 fucking percent of all the dollars that have ever existed ever have been printed since 2008, right around the time Bitcoin launched. So essentially, Bitcoin is just a barometer for inflation. And it's like an insurance this is like Greg Foss's thing. It's an insurance contract on the entire fucking world. It's your ability to call bullshit on every fucking thing in existence. And we haven't even seen the underlying go bust yet. Contract hasn't even fucking paid off yet. All the price appreciation up to this point is just premiums on the swap. When it actually goes bust, do you know how fucking rich everyone is going to get, that's when the number actually goes up, friends. The number hasn't been going up to this point. It's been going down. Sats per dollar is a doomsday clock for the dollar. All right? We're winning. It's just more winning from here on out. Get used to winning. Let yourself win. You deserve it. Love you.
I like that. I love the doomsday clock. Breck, can I do a quick shill?
Chill away, my friend.
All right. Everybody watching, come over to the show, and the best comment of the episode, I will buy you a block clock.
Oh,
what?
Ooh.
Oh,
Love that.
they're on back order. They're on back order, though.
That's okay. I did it once before,
Even
but
better,
I made.
Ben will send you his block clock. So that you
No, he won't. No one gives up their block clock.
But this isn't like totally all right out of pocket, but I made a bunch of videos on cold card stuff, and I have a referral link, and it builds up. I literally have every cold card, coin kite, like every item you could possibly want from coin kite. So now it's just like whenever it builds up to buy something sweet, I just like I'll toss it out. So yeah, come over to the show, comment in the chat, and somebody will get a block clock.
Dang.
Nice.
That's not a shill. That's just an amazing opportunity. That's
Yeah.
The block clock is so sexy too. Like, yeah, it's a waste of sats, but like, you just have to have one. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
it's high time preference, but I need it in my life.
It's a work of art.
Looking at it right now.
It's wonderful. All right, folks. To our guests, thank you for joining. We will be doing this show next week live from El Zonte. Hopefully, if the internet is better than it was today. If not, we're going to record something, play it later. If you're going to be down there, let me know. I'm actually going to be down there for almost a week. I'm going to be filming a little mini documentary. So the Bitcoiners that'll be there, and I'm going to give you a new look into El Zonte, hopefully something different. We've got shows coming up. We've got Camila and Javier's show every Monday. We've got some great Swan signals coming up next week. I believe it's Elise Colleen and Lynn Alden. Then after that, we have, you know what? I don't remember. So we've got some great shows coming up. They're on our YouTube. Go check them out. This show is every Friday. Go get the podcast. All these amazingly beautiful people. Go watch Ben's show and get. I wasn't talking to you, Ben. I was just being nice. That look. And we will see week. Am I frozen? I might be frozen. Am I talking to myself?
You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Hear me? I don't even know what's happening anymore. You're frozen. You're just like this.
Oh,
Your audio is great. So
yeah, you sound beautiful, Breck. We love you. We can.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. It was a fun. You can say whatever you want. We'll see you next time. Go to swanbitcoin.com. Start stacking sats. Go to bitcoin.com/enlist and get paid to recruit Bitcoiners. Go to swanbitcoin.com/free book. Get a free book. Go to twitter.com/BVBTC and tell me to stop being annoying on the show if you thought I was annoying on today's show. And we'll see you next time, folks. Thank you.